What's going on, everybody? Respawn Gentleman here. So with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands coming out very soon, I wanted to break down every single class and give you what I think are the best builds for each one. So let's get right into it. All right, so here I am on the Wonderland skill calculator, and I'll have a link for it down in the description below. And today we're going to be talking about the Stabbomancer. So the feat for the Stabbomancer is called Dirty Fighting. Now this one gives you a 30% increased critical hit chance, which is absolutely huge. Now for the two action skills, we have Ghost Blade, and this one you throw out a Ghost Blade, and it spins in place while dealing melee damage periodically to a nearby enemies based on your currently equipped melee weapon. Pressing the action skill button while Ghost Blade is active causes it to teleport to the targeted location and reduces its remaining duration by a small percentage. So this is one of the ones that actually has numbers built into it. So you can see that the reposition penalty is minus 5% of your max duration. The melee damage is 75% of your currently equipped melee weapon. The melee damage frequency is however fast you're able to swing your melee weapon. That's how often it's going to do damage, and you get 16-second duration, and you get a 37-second cooldown. Next, we have From the Shadows. Now, this one says you enter stealth, turning invisible, and while stealth is active, all damage dealt is automatically a critical hit, but critical hits deal reduced damage. So you get minus 25% critical hit damage. It does last for 8 seconds, and it's got a 36-second cooldown. So this one is actually really cool, and we'll talk about this one more later, but for the single class build, I think Ghost Blade fits the most. So this is what this single class build is going to be based on. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is max out Arsenal because it gives you plus 15% to melee, spell, and gun damage. Next, you want to max out Haste because it gives you plus 12% melee attack speed as well as movement speed. And then whenever you cast a spell, that effect is also doubled for 12 seconds. So this is absolutely huge. You want to be moving around using your melee as much as possible. So this is fantastic to have. Then you want to go ahead and max out Potent Poisons. This gives you plus 20% status effect damage and plus 40% status effect duration. This build is going to be doing a lot of status effect damage, so this is super important to have. Next, you want to also go ahead and max out Follow Up. It says anytime you deal gun damage to an enemy, the Fate Maker's next melee attack deals plus 6% increased damage. You can have a total of 10 stacks. So if you wait to do a melee attack until you've got 10 full stacks, then you'll do plus 60% increased melee damage, which is absolutely insane. Next, you also want to go ahead and max out Swift Death. It says while moving, the Fate Maker gains plus 10% increased damage dealt at default walking speed. It says the faster you move, the greater the bonus. This actually ties in perfectly with Haste, which increases your movement speed, and you'll be doing more damage just by moving around. Next, you want to max out Exploit Their Weakness. It says whenever you apply a status effect to an enemy, the affected enemy takes plus 6% increased damage from all sources for its duration, and it can stack per unique status effect. And since this is going to be a mainly status effect build, this one's also super important to have. Then you want to also go ahead and max out Nimble Fingers. Basically, anytime you deal melee damage, your fire rate and spell damage is increased for 8 seconds. So the fire rate can get up to plus 18%, and the spell damage is plus 24%. So you're going to be doing melee a lot, so this is a really good one to have. Next, you definitely want to go ahead and grab Shadow Step. This is a kill skill that your next melee attack is guaranteed a critical hit for 6 seconds. So this is absolutely a must-have. You got to have this one. Next, you want to put 1 point into Sneak Attack, so you get that plus 3% critical hit damage. Now, this one can be interchanged with Nimble Fingers. If you would prefer not to do as much melee, then you can put the 3 points from Nimble Fingers into this and give you a total of 4, but I would not max this one out. Then you want to go ahead and grab Elusive because it says you can sprint and shoot at the same time. You also get a 10% chance to evade incoming damage while moving at default walk speed. So this tying in with Haste and the other movement kind of upgrades we've done, you're going to be moving around a lot. You can sprint and shoot, and you'll be taking less damage because of it. Next, you want to go ahead and max out Contagion. It says anytime you apply a status effect, there's a plus 24% chance it spreads to nearby enemies. Now, if there's no enemies nearby, then a different random status effect is applied to the enemy instead. So you can either deal multiple status effects to enemies around, or if it's just a single enemy, they can have 2 status effects on them at once. And it says the new status effect does 50% of the original one. So this is fantastic because we're going to be trying to use status effects as much as possible with this build, so you really want to have this. Next, you want to max out 1,000 Cuts because it gives you plus 1% increased damage dealt per stack for each critical hit you do. And yes, you won't necessarily be having a ton of critical hit damage per se, but your chance is going to be super high, so this is a really important one to have. Next, you want to also grab Alchemical Agent. It says your melee critical hits apply a random status effect, and the damage for that is 10% of your melee damage. So this is really good. Again, you're going to be applying status effects like crazy. Then you definitely want to grab the Capstone Executioner's Blade. It says gun and spell critical hits have a 20% chance to create an ethereal blade above the target that will impale them after a short delay. And it says ethereal blades do melee damage based on your currently equipped melee weapon, and it does 100% of that damage. So the higher damage you have with your melee weapon, the more damage these blades are going to do. Now for the stats, I chose no backstory on this one. I put strength and dexterity at 20 for that extra critical hit stuff. I went ahead and maxed out wisdom because you're going to be doing a lot of status effects, so you want the status effect damage to be as high as you can get it. And then I also increased attunement so that to 20, so that way you can have your action skill cooldown and you can use the ghost blade even more. So for the multi-class, I chose Berserker as the secondary class. So the feat for that, you get Rage of the Ancients, which causes the Fate Maker to become enraged and adds bonus frost damage to your attacks. It says the rage duration will not deplete while an action skill is active and ends if the Fate Maker enters Save Your Soul. Activating an action skill when already enraged restores a portion of the enraged timer. So this is actually going to be really good because enrage kind of will double up on some of the things we're going to do. And as far as the action skills go, this one is going to benefit more from the action skill from the shadows. You're going to be using this one a lot. I'm going to increase the critical hit damage, critical hit chance. This is going to be a critical hit build. This is going to be amazing. So for the Stabbomancer tree, you want to go ahead and max out Arsenal because that's always a good one to have. You also want to go ahead and max out Haste. You want to max out Swift Death, max out Follow Up. You want to go ahead and grab Shadow Step. Also go ahead and max out Sneak Attack, grab Elusive, max out 1,000 Cuts, and also grab Executioner's Blade. So for the Berserker tree, you want to go ahead and max out Savagery because you're going to be still doing a lot of melee damage. It's going to increase that melee damage as well as your enraged duration, so you'll be enraged for longer. You also want to max out Unyielding. It says a percentage of missing health regenerates over time, and while enraged, this effect doubles. So you're going to want to be using From the Shadows as much as you can, which is going to make you enraged, and you're going to be healing a lot more, so you're going to be gaining back a lot of health because of this. And then you want to put 3 points into the Old Ways, and it says you deal bonus damage and gain increased damage reduction the closer you are to the enemy. So this ties in perfectly with From the Shadows. You're going to be doing more damage anytime you do attack enemies that way, as well as doing the critical hits and getting up close with enemies. This is absolutely amazing. So for the stats on this, I chose no backstory. I went ahead and maxed out strength and dexterity, so you get that plus 25% on the critical hit damage, and then plus 40% on the chance, which is absolutely huge because you're going to want to be doing criticals as much as you possibly can with this build. And then also I increased attunement to 20 to give you that increased action skill cooldown rate, so you can use From the Shadows even more often. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more Wonderlands content, make sure to like and subscribe. You can also check out some of my other videos like the one YouTube recommends right over there. And if you want to help support this channel, you can check out the support links in the description below. Thanks for watching.